What's up guys, my name is Ace, and many people, myself included, over the past several years since the launch of Modern Warfare 2019, absolutely hate the current matchmaking system that they're using. As far as we can tell, they've been using at least essentially the same sort of system. It's most commonly referred to as skill-based matchmaking, but more accurately, it's an engagement-optimized matchmaking system that looks at your recent performance and will match you based on your recent performance. So if you've been performing really well recently, it's going to put you in more difficult lobbies to match that challenge, whereas if you're performing poorly in your recent matches, it may give you some really easy games to make you feel like a god and keep you hooked in the game so you want to keep playing and chasing that high. This, unlike an actual skill-based matchmaking system, is incredibly manipulative, and once you're aware of it, it can be really frustrating to deal with. It feels like you get punished for performing well, and on the other end of that, when you perform poorly, it feels like it gives you pity games to make you feel good about yourself, and that doesn't feel very good either. Now that's just one element that many of us dislike. There's also other things like playing with a friend or multiple friends that are a significantly different skill level. It can really make the experience terrible for everybody involved there. There's also a lack of the ability to sort of organically track your improvement over time because the game is manipulating what type of experience you're getting. It's not organic. And also, of course, there's no visible skill rank for you or the enemies that you're playing against, so you can't track it in that way. And over the years, with my testing with this engagement-optimized matchmaking system, it seems that ping is no longer king, and it is willing to sacrifice the best connection possible in order to give you a better skill match in the game. Now that's just a really brief overview of many of the arguments against this current implementation of the system. It doesn't really seem like it's about true fairness in the game, and it's much more about trying to manipulate your highs and lows to keep you playing longer. But in today's video, I wanted to share a bunch of the things that I've just found over the years of playing with this system that help me mitigate the effects of this engagement-optimized matchmaking system without reverse boosting and without actively exploiting anything. I'm not paying for one of those special VPN services. I don't reverse boost. I don't join on bot accounts, nothing like that. However, over the years, I have sort of adapted to this system and found several things that I can do to help mitigate this and make the matchmaking feel better overall. Now, just to be clear, this isn't going to yield what people like to call bot lobbies, or really easy lobbies against the lowest of low-skilled players. So if you're looking to get into those lobbies, yeah, you're going to have to exploit the system by reverse boosting or using a VPN, for instance. Instead, these things that I'm sharing today, since they aren't exploits, I just find overall I get a much better mix of lobbies on average. I still get really difficult lobbies, but I also get some really easy lobbies, and I get sort of everything in the middle as well. And just overall, it's led to a much better experience for me. It's also worth noting that if you're a below average player, you may want to do the opposite of what I'm suggesting here, because for you, you probably want to gain the maximum amount of protection from this matchmaking system. But the first general tip that I've got for you guys to get a better mix of lobbies overall is do anything you can to limit the pool of players that you're going to be connecting to. The reason you want to do this is the smaller population of players to pull from when it's matchmaking, the smaller chance of getting similarly skilled players to you. So just to give a random example here, these numbers I'm just pulling out of nowhere. Let's just say when you press the button to matchmake, there are 10,000 people that are also trying to matchmake with the same parameters. So 10,000 people that you could potentially connect to in that moment. If you're a well above average player and you've been performing really well recently, there's a pretty decent chance that out of 10,000 players, they're going to be able to find a good handful of really good players that are roughly around your skill level for that matchup. Whereas in that same scenario, what if you limit that so it's only 100 people that you could potentially connect to in that moment? Now the game's going to have a significantly harder time finding a lobby full of players that are roughly around your skill level. And with the way the matchmaking system works, it tries to get you into a lobby within about a minute. That's usually around the threshold where if it can't find a good enough skill match, it's just going to throw you into whatever's available after that minute has elapsed. And that tends to yield a much better mix of lobbies. So what specifically can you do to limit the pool of players that you can connect to? The first and probably most important thing out of this entire video that will have the biggest effect overall is simply the time of day that you're playing the game. I found there is a massive difference in overall lobby strength when you play in off-peak hours versus peak hours. Like for me, since this is my full-time job, I try to play the game on weekdays during the day, and when this is happening, most other people are at school or work, and therefore the player population is quite low, and as a result, I tend to get a very good mix of lobbies. Whereas if I play on weekday evenings after everybody's got home from work and they're getting their games of COD in, I find lobbies on average are far more difficult. Same thing with weekends. I really don't like playing the game anymore on weekends because on average, I find the games to be far, far more difficult and competitive, and it's a totally different gameplay experience compared to when I play weekday during the day. Now, unfortunately, for many of you watching this video, you probably are kind of stuck to playing during peak hours, because just like the majority of the population, you're at work or school during the day. So it does kind of suck if you are sort of trapped in those times of day to be playing the game, and there's probably nothing you can do about that, but there's other things we can do to limit the pool of players to connect to. The next thing is, if you're on PlayStation platforms, disable crossplay. This will limit the pool of players you can connect to, so now any really good PC players or Xbox players, they're eliminated from the equation. And again, it's not like this is going to yield bot lobbies for you. There's still plenty of really good PlayStation players out there that you may run into, but you're limiting that pool and therefore increasing the odds of getting more mixed lobbies. Additionally, another thing you can do to limit the pool of players that you can connect to is play lower population playlists and avoid selecting too many modes if you're using the quick play filters. If you have every quick play filter selected when you search for a game, the pool of players you can connect to is basically the entire population currently playing the game, and as a result, you're at the full mercy of the matchmaking system. It can do anything it wants with you at that point because you're not limiting anything. Whereas if you were to select one single game mode in the quick play filters, and especially if that's a lesser played game mode, that will significantly limit the pool of players you can connect to, which again will yield more mixed lobbies on average. And that is the first set of tips that I've got for you guys, and like I said, possibly the most important, especially the time of day that you play. It's a totally different game depending on what time of the day you're playing. Having said that though, there's still a few other things that you can do without exploiting anything. One thing that I find is if you play with a party of at least 5 or 6 players, I find the matchmaking tends to become a lot more mixed as well. Now, I have found if I don't play with 5 or 6 players and I'm only playing with maybe like 3 or 4 in a party, if anything, I find it often makes it more difficult. However, the moment I get at least 5 or 6 players in, regardless of their skill levels, they can all be really good players, they can be really bad players, or a mix of everything in between, I just find that once again, I tend to get a better mix of lobbies overall. Now, I do think part of this is also due to the team balancing system, because if you are a significantly above average player statistically, and you play solo, for instance, the game is almost always going to give you all of the worst players in the lobby on your team in order to balance out the skill levels of the two teams, and then you're expected to carry all of those really bad players against the more average to above average players on the other team. And that can make it feel like the matchmaking system is more strict than it actually is, because there are bad players in the lobby, but they're always on your team. Whereas when you party up with a party of 5 or 6 players, the team balancing system can no longer do that. It can't give you the worst players because there's no room on the team, and therefore the worst players in the lobby are going to be on the other team, so you tend to see a better mix of players that you're running into in a match. And this is why you often see me playing with a full party, or at least almost a full party in my gameplays. This is because 99% of my gameplay time in Modern Warfare 2 is live streamed, and when I'm live streaming, I simply open it up, and any of you guys are welcome to join me. We don't communicate at all, you don't have to be an amazing player, anybody's welcome to join, and I just find that yields a much better mix of enemies and lobbies overall. And then finally, one last thing that I do that tends to yield a better mix of lobbies overall is I use my NetDuma router, and I just set a geo-filter with this. Now, just to be clear, I'm not affiliated with NetDuma in any way. I'm not getting paid to say this. I have been using their products for years. I pay full price for them, and I enjoy the product. I do stand behind it, and I do recommend it for any serious gamer that has some disposable income. They're a bit pricey, but the benefits are excellent if it's something that you feel you can comfortably afford. But with this router, effectively, you can just ensure that the matchmaking system won't match you outside of your region, and it forces ping to be king again. And that's something that I feel everybody should have access to. I feel like the matchmaking system shouldn't be doing that in the first place, and we should all always be getting our best connection possible, but since the matchmaking system doesn't do that, we're kind of forced to take matters into our own hands if we want to ensure that we're getting the best connection experience possible. And with a NetDuma router, or some of the Netgear routers that have the NetDuma software on them, it allows you to set a geo-filter in the router itself, so it won't allow a connection outside of a certain region that you select. And in doing so, like I said, it just prevents that matchmaking system from prioritizing skill over connection. Now connection has to be first, And of course, that's going to yield a much better gameplay experience overall. And with that, that's about it. That's everything that I've found over the years that just yield a better overall experience while playing the game. Like I said, I don't reverse boost, I don't exploit anything, and I don't think any of these things I mentioned today could be considered exploiting. It's simply adjusting the time of day, or the lobbies you're playing, or how many people you're playing with. And I think the best thing is it yields a mix of lobbies, which is truly what I want. If I wanted just constant bot lobbies, then sure, I would just exploit the system and reverse boost. And if anything, I'd be all for this skill-based matchmaking system because I could get easier lobbies than ever before in Call of Duty. But what I truly want is just variety. I want a little bit of everything. I want some tough competitive matches. I want some average matches, and I want some easy matches. I want all of it without feeling like I'm being actively manipulated by the game into those lobbies in order to play on psychology to try to hook me into the game like a slot machine is designed to hook gamblers. And with that, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this answers the question for you guys, because I do get a lot of comments accusing me of reverse boosting. Of course, also I should point out, I only record my really good games. Of course, I'm not recording the bad ones. Also, in many cases with my videos, I'm cutting out deaths and I'm only showing you the streaks throughout a game. So it might not have been an amazing scoreline overall for the game, but maybe I had a really good streak in there. And that's all you're seeing in the gameplay video. So hopefully that answers it for you guys. Hopefully this allows you to get a better mix of lobbies overall and just a better overall experience with the game like it has for me. And with that, I'd like to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. First up, have you been doing any of these things already to get a better experience overall? And do you have any other tips to maybe help get around the matchmaking system without exploiting anything or breaking terms of service? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.